The public policy think tank CEDA believes Australia could increase its current housing stock by 9% if just 1 in 4 standalone homes in the 5 biggest cities are developed into dual occupancies. It's calling on governments to do more to increase so-called gentle density in the middle rings of Australia's biggest cities by allowing more terrace housing, townhouses, low-rise apartments and dual occupancy. The business was given an early look at the first of CEDA's 5 new reports on housing. I spoke to Chief Economist Cassandra Windsor. Welcome to The Business. Aren't governments already looking at the middle rings of some of our capital cities to grow housing supply, or does CEDA believe more can be achieved?
Yes, so we are seeing some work here from governments around increasing density in our middle ring suburbs. We've seen a fair bit happen in both Sydney and Melbourne recently, where there have been some changes to zoning. And actually in Perth, where I am here as well, we've had a recent announcement from the state government around increasing density around some train station precincts, which is exactly the sort of areas where we'd like to see more development.
Often these areas have a patchwork of heritage, environmental and character overlays overseen by local councils. Do you view those as the biggest impediments to further development?
Yes, so local councils and the zoning and planning regulations at a local council level is really what's holding back this sort of development. So rules differ from council to council. We have a huge number of councils in Australia as well. So it's really hard for developers to get in to understand what the requirements are, and they're often very restrictive. So that's why we'd like to see some really broad changes. So changes that are not just at one local government level, but actually affect multiple councils or across whole capital cities in order to make it much easier for developers and potential new home buyers to get in, to build this sort of housing, to increase our housing supply.
And so CEDA is asking state governments to apply a carrot and stick approach here. Can you take us through what you're suggesting?
Yeah, so look, there's a real role here for state governments as well as federal governments as well in incentivising local councils. So local councils at the moment don't actually have much incentive to increase zoning. They may have some planning requirements to put in place and targets, but there's nothing that happens if they don't meet those targets. So we think there's a role for state governments here in either taking a stronger approach if local governments aren't meeting their targets.
What does that mean?
So that could mean that state governments actually take over some of the planning regulations, and we've seen that in some places where local governments aren't meeting any targets around increasing housing supply or improving housing affordability. Actually, some of those planning regulations then no longer sit with the local government; they sit more at a state government level.
And if they do meet those targets?
Yeah, look, I think we think there should be some financial incentives for that as well. So really rewarding those councils that are doing the right thing and really making some inroads into housing availability in their areas, while looking at ways to encourage those that aren't to meet these requirements as well.
Do you think it's only a matter of time until the voices of so-called NIMBYs or people who subscribe to the idea "not in my backyard," that those voices are drowned out?
Look, I think more and more Australians are becoming aware of the housing affordability issues. If it's not impacting you individually, it's almost certainly impacting someone in your family. And most people also want their family members to be able to live near them, so they have those community connections, and people want to be living near amenities, near jobs, near transport. And these are all the things that are available in our middle ring suburbs. It's already there, that infrastructure's there. So I think we are seeing that bit of a shift because of how intense the issue is at the moment.
What you're talking about would see the average size of lots become smaller. Presumably there would be implications for house prices.
Yes, so what we'd love to see is, this increase in housing supply in these middle ring areas. And we think if you took even a quarter of some of the lots there and increased those to dual occupancy, so you had 2 dwellings on those lots, not just one, across Australia that could increase housing supply by up to 1 million houses. That wouldn't happen overnight, but over time that would be a significant improvement on our housing supply. that would have flow-on effects to house prices and to rents. So we're unlikely to see big drops in house prices, but what we'd like to see is that moderation in house price growth, so much softer, and a similar impact on rents.
Cassandra Windsor, good to speak to you.
Thank you.